to the reading of Rebirth, my memoir around the birth of my first daughter when everything went crazy, chaotic. I'm reading chapter 15 now. I've started reading from the beginning. I'm reading chapter by chapter. So if you happened upon this video, I encourage you to go back to the beginning so that you are following the story in sequence if you want to. Subscribe to the channel so that you know when the next chapter is dropping, and make sure you like and share if you like this story so that it reaches the people who are meant to hear it. And I would love to hear your thoughts or feedback or have a testimony from you if you enjoy this story. Thank you so much for being here. I'm reading chapter 15 and it's entitled, Is This Mine? The sound of a baby crying pulled me from a fog. My eyelids were heavy, and I could barely lift them. The room was dark. I couldn't see or remember where I was, or even who I was. I felt suspended in time, in a place far away. I straddled two worlds, somewhere between asleep and awake. The room felt old, musty, and sparse, maybe a barn or an old farmhouse. I couldn't see it. I only sensed it. A small bed, a few dressers, nothing more. There was someone else in the room, seated along the far wall. Everything played out in shades of black and white, like an old movie flickering across my mind. The baby kept crying, but I couldn't see her. Am I supposed to feed her? I asked aloud, unsure who I was speaking to, perhaps only myself, or the shadowy presence I felt in the corner. I tapped the bed lightly, searching for her with my hands. Have I done this before? I asked again, my voice hesitant. My thoughts moved through a thick fog. I didn't remember feeding a baby before, and yet I knew it was what I needed to do. My fingers found her, a soft, wailing bundle, and I pulled her close, still trying to make sense of it all. I didn't know how I got here or why. No memories, no past, just me, a girl in a quiet, forgotten place, with a crying baby and a silent stranger across the room. Then the figure stood up, and suddenly the lights flicked on, bright and disorienting, shattering the illusion. The room was far more modern than I'd imagined. Soft blue walls, a curtain, a hospital bed. I looked down. I was wearing a blue gown. The baby was wrapped in a standard issue hospital blanket, white with one pink and one blue stripe. I squinted again, confused, and finally noticed the man standing by the door. He was dressed casually in jeans and a t-shirt. My brow furrowed as I struggled to reconcile the black and white dreamscape with the sterile fluorescent reality. Then, all at once, my mind snapped back online. The pieces clicked into place. I remembered who I was, where I was. Everything returned, and I followed my memory back to the present. Of course I felt her before, I blurted, startled by how real the experience felt. Wow, that was weird. I looked at Mauro, grinning to mask my unease. I guess that's what happens when someone is sleep deprived. I told him everything, how I'd woken up confused, convinced I was somewhere else, someone else, unsure of what the crying baby wanted. I waited for his reaction, but his face showed neither wonder nor amazement. He just stared at Evelyn, his expression clouded with concern and tinged with sadness. He didn't say a word. This room was different. No distraction, no interruptions. It felt worlds away from the rest of the hospital. Even the routine check-ins had stopped, leaving only complete peace and silence. We should have invested in this room sooner, I said, nudging Mauro. It makes such a difference. We had a quiet night, and while I was grateful for the calm, by morning I was anxious to go home. It had been over 48 hours, and we should have been discharged by now. Mauro left to check on the process. It was 8 a.m. when the door creaked open and a nurse entered, followed closely by a younger woman who was clearly a student. The older nurse introduced her. You'll be discharged later, she said, but we're still waiting on the baby's test results. She came to check my blood pressure. It's been high, she added. We want it back to normal before we release you. She wrapped the cuff around my arm, the monitor whirring. Still high, she announced. Then the two of them exited the room in the same solemn procession in which they'd arrived. I figured maybe I just needed to relax, so I closed my eyes and focused on deep breathing. Not 2 minutes later, Mauro walked back in with the same update. They said we'll be discharged by 10 a.m. once the results are in, but I need to go home to get the baby seat. They won't let us leave without it. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope, then watched the clock, minute by minute. The sterile scent of the room clung to my skin. The longer I stayed, the more desperate I became to get home to my bed, my house, and my life. I ached for my routine, for stillness, for the comfort of being surrounded by the familiar. Just after 11 a.m., the nurse duo returned. My blood pressure was still high. You can't be discharged unless it comes down, the senior nurse repeated. I frowned. I'd never had high blood pressure in my life. I was sure it was just the stress of being trapped in this fluorescent purgatory. Sleep deprivation impairs the body's ability to regulate stress hormones, potentially leading to elevated blood pressure, a fact I wasn't privy to at the time. I kept dwelling on the OB's concerned expression and the gentle touch on my shoulder after she asked about my bleeding, but those quiet gestures were quickly overshadowed by the strange, rigid protocols that seemed less about care and more about a system busying itself with routine for routine's sake. I felt fine and just wanted to go home. Around 1 p.m., a nurse finally came in with news. Evelyn's test results were back, and everything was normal. She could be discharged. I felt a wave of vindication. I wanted to scream, "I told you so," but I held back. I wasn't free yet. A few minutes later, the student nurse returned alone to check my blood pressure again. I looked up at her hopefully, taking a long, slow breath as she placed the cuff on my arm. She sighed, her shoulders slumped, and then perked up and said, "It's fine." The words I had been longing to hear made the tension I had been carrying slowly drain from my muscles, as if the weight of the last few days was finally lifting. My entire body softened. It was finally over. I smiled bigger than I had in days. "Thank you," I shouted as she left the room. I sat up, threw the blanket to the side, and as I was about to get out of bed, I heard voices from the hallway. "Is it all good now?" the senior nurse asked. "No, it's still high," the student replied. I froze, my smile dissolved, my body slumped, and my mind short-circuited for a moment. What? Why would she tell me it was fine if it wasn't? My thoughts spiraled. I felt held hostage by arbitrary protocols. Every hour stretched into an eternity. Every conversation felt nonsensical. My soul felt raw, scraped down to the bone. I just wanted to go home. Then Mauro returned, hoisting the car seat like a trophy above his head. I updated him while strapping Evelyn in. He had stories of his own. "You wouldn't believe the runaround I had," he laughed. "I had to go to the fire station and the police station, but apparently you need appointments for help with car seat installations." He'd spent hours zigzagging across the city before someone finally helped him figure it out. And that is chapter 15, which was entitled "Is This Mine?" of the memoir entitled Rebirth. It's my memoir. And if you are here and you're not subscribed yet, please make sure you subscribe so you know when the next chapter drops. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as you're reading along with me, what you're thinking or what's going through your mind about the story. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to share your experience if you had any crazy experiences like that in your life. And please like and share so that it reaches the people who are meant to hear this story. And if you like the story, I think I said that already. If you like the story, please like and share. I said that already. All right, I covered everything. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter reading. Thanks again.